Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Brian Kilmeade will be coming around shortly to take your drink order. Happy Thursday, everyone. So a new study links drinking alcohol to the risk of dementia. Alcohol and dementia. Sounds familiar. Turns out a South African minister's prediction that the world would end on Tuesday didn't come true, meaning Mika Brzezinski had sex with her husband for no reason. Even he's laughing. Kamala's new book revealed that she moaned to her husband during Tim Walz's disastrous VP debate, marking the first time Tim Walz has ever made a woman moan. Harris also wrote that there was, quote, more riding on Tim's debate than there should have been. Her husband, Doug, agreed, saying there should have been more riding on nannies. New York Governor Kathy Hochul was booed by fans when she was brought up on stage at the Ryder Cup golf tournament. But the worst moment came when golfers mistook her face for a three-wood. Barack Obama admitted he had to dig himself out of a hole in his marriage. Luckily for Joe, they didn't fill it. Hillary Clinton told Morning Joe that Americans have to stop finger pointing, especially kids who point at her and say, "Mommy, is that the lady who killed Jeffrey Epstein?" I know. Where do kids get this idea? Probably the internet. Pregnant women have been posting videos of themselves taking Tylenol after Trump said there's a link between the pain reliever and autism. Wow, I hope Trump will link autism with doing the dishes. She's so happy doing the dishes. President Trump hung an official picture of Joe Biden's auto pen at the White House. If you think that's bad, look at the new official picture of Bill Clinton. Finally, a California town has posted warnings of an attack squirrel that sent several people to the hospital. Gavin Newsom is safe since he has no nuts. Thank you. All right. I'll take it. So following Wednesday's shooting at a Dallas ICE facility, the left once again wants to make this a both sides problem, which is like saying both the arsonist and the fireman burned the house down. There's a big difference between fire starters and fire stoppers. That's why I don't have a calendar of New York's sexiest arsonists in my office. But whenever something awful happens, like the assassination of a conservative or Brian Kilmeade writing another book, if you dare point out who did it, they yell both sides. But maybe it is both sides, the hard left and the left. The only other time it's both sides is when the shooter claims to be male and female. But why not hear the other side out? So let's put on our hazmat suits and head over to MSNBC, where they actually suggested leftist terrorists writing slogans on bullets as a tactic from the right. A former FBI official actually said this.
Brenton Tarrant, he was a fierce, white supremacist and neo-Nazi, and wrote all over his weapon and his rounds. So to see this coming from, potentially the other side of the political spectrum is a little strange. If you are trying to, carry out some kind of message countering, more extreme right-wing stuff, I don't know why you would, use a tactic that a famous white supremacist who has been revered and copycatted over the years.
Not hard to see why he has former in his title. What does a killer from New Zealand have to do with lefty maniacs in the U.S.? Nothing. It's like blaming the Klingons for Jesse Waters' hair. It's the biggest reach since Jay Pritzker tried to scratch his balls. Of course, it didn't end there. Here's MSNBC's Rosa Flores.
We've also seen the very dramatic videos of ICE nabbing individuals and tossing them into unmarked vehicles. A lot of these ICE agents have been masked, and so it has been very divisive. And there's been a lot of fear in the different communities where we've been reporting.
So I guess the agents had it coming. It's the old look how the rape victim was dressed routine. She's telling them not to wear masks while they're being shot at. But this stuff is sanctioned, even by the party's leaders. Here's Gavin Newsom, a governor who runs his state like a college sophomore smoking his first joint.
Masked men jumping out of unmarked cars, people disappearing, no due process, no oversight, zero accountability happening in the United States of America today. People ask, well, is authoritarianism, you're being hyperbolic? Bull, we're being hyperbolic.
Oh. If you truly believe that in your soul, we must first accept that you have one. But he knows what he's doing. He's not calling Trump a big jerk. He's saying he's a fascist. And what do you do with fascists? Well, Tyler Robinson showed you. But thankfully, other Democrat leaders are toning down their rhetoric.
How do you prove to somebody that you're a U.S. citizen? Your accent? The color of your skin? That's not the country we live in. You know, you shouldn't have to walk around with papers the way that they did in the early days of Nazi Germany to prove that you belong and that you're not one of them. And that is essentially the kind of country that we're becoming.
Usually when Pritzker throws the N-word around, he means nachos. Acid fully loaded and keep him coming. Be easier to take him seriously if he had a neck. He looks like a pelican swallowing a pot roast. And of course, if you smell wet garbage, you know Hillary's in town.
The idea that you could turn the clock back and try to recreate a world that never was, dominated by, you know, let's say it, white men of a certain persuasion, a certain religion, a certain point of view, a certain ideology, is just doing such damage to what we should be aiming for.
What? Isn't she charming? No wonder Bill spends most of his days perched in a tree outside the local Hooters. Today's left thrives on declaring their enemies evil. But us, we mock, we ridicule, we call people dumb, lazy, fat, wrong. But not demons, not Hitler. That's the left's game. Because once you decide your opponent is Hitler, then anything goes. Violence becomes justified. And then when some mentally ill kid takes their cue, you guys just shrug, well, it's both sides. No. The bombs under Fox News trucks, the ICE raid protests, the vandalized memorials, the bullets etched with anti-ICE, it's all coming from one direction. And the pattern is real. Screwed up loners get pointed at the approved enemies. So what is it about the left's reflex to say both sides following a murder? When a police officer comforts a grieving widow, does he say, you know, your husband could be really rude at times? What's the impulse behind bringing it up at all? It's a rationalization to protect you from realizing you might be wrong. It arises from that pit in your stomach where the guilt resides. Saying both sides shields your ego. And you got to wonder, why do surveys show that Charlie's murder was justified to so many young Democrats? Because he's conservative, Christian? If that's the case, then anybody with that label is marked for death. But remember, Charlie was only on the planet for 31 years and in the public eye for just a few. The people in the survey probably never heard of him until his death. That, my friends, is brainwash. So don't give me both sides. There's one side that screams Nazi and shrugs when violence follows, and there's the other side who's ducking and hoping they miss. Let's welcome tonight's guest. She's got more takes than Home Depot has rakes. Republican strategist Aaron McGuire. The only thing lower than his voice is his girlfriend's standards. Comedian Jim Florentine. She constantly fidgets and weighs double digits. New York Times bestselling author and Fox News contributor Kat Tube. And his tailor needs a scaffold to measure his inseam. New York Times bestselling author, comedian, and former NWA World Champion. Aaron, how are you today?
I'm well, Greg. How are you?
I don't care.
Okay.
All right. Do you notice? I mean, I don't think it's about the violence, because if you get into the violence, it's this both sides thing. It's about the language and the ideas used to advance the party's aims. I just think that if you start calling people Hitler and Nazi, this is what you're going to get.
I think that's very correct. They make it other. They make it so that you don't seem human anymore, so violence is the easier outcome. And you are seeing that much more on the left. Polling shows right now that Democrats, more than a plurality, believe that violence is okay in politics. That is not the same number on the right. And it's also Democrats who time and again say that words are violence. You don't hear that from the right. We don't make excuses because we try to be careful and smart with our language because we know words carry weight. And so when you other somebody, when you belittle them, when you make them someone who's no longer human, violence is an easy outcome. So they have brainwashed people into believing that as a Republican, we don't matter. As a conservative, I am other. If you wear a MAGA hat, I remember in the 2020 campaign for President Trump, we were in New Hampshire for the primary, and a high school kid wore a MAGA hat outside of a polling location and was punched in the face by an adult. The kid didn't confront him or anything. The adult just did it on his own. That is what happens when you vilify those you aren't willing to have a conversation with. And that is exactly what Charlie Kirk was trying to do when he was murdered, was take the level down and say, we can disagree, but we don't have to other each other. We can have a conversation. And that is so sorely missing on the left.
Well said. I'd say you killed it just now, but I don't want to inflame anybody. Jim, lucky for you, both sides hate you. So, you're an insult comic. Don't you think the solution to everything is just to go back to basic insulting? If you don't like somebody, just say they're fat or ugly. Enough with the Hitler, the Nazi, the fascist stuff.
I like that. I think that's a good idea. And, Hillary insulted me by saying white Christian men are, ruining this world. It's like, all right, how do I ruin the world? Maybe I don't recycle all the time. That's all that's how maybe I'm ruining the world. And who also is a white Christian man? Her husband.
Yeah.
So no wonder she hates us.
Yes.
I don't want to be lumped in with Bill.
Yeah.
I wasn't on Epstein's flight.
Yes.
If I was offered, I'd take United. I need the miles.
You're so right. I think that is probably due to the fact that Bill banged his intern, and she's still carrying that pain within her pantsuit. Kat, I'm trying to figure out how do you get the left to listen to us, to say okay, can you please stop doing this? You can get me to stop doing something by saying, just knock it off.
Okay. That's the funniest thing you've ever said. I'm still not done.
But no, I guess if somebody said, Greg, when you keep calling Joy Behar fat, she's getting death threats, I would stop. But I know she's not.
I just love that you've gone from I make fat jokes and that's okay to I make fat jokes and therefore I'm a hero.
Yes. Did you not see this
quite
coming?
A trajectory.
Did you see that everything? My career has been the answer to all of this problem from the day one.
You're not going on the defensive with fat jokes anymore. You're going on the offensive.
Yes.
They're not just not a problem. Now they're the solution.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying?
Yeah, it's like he takes his daily vitamins.
Yeah.
And he's
Just wanted to make
daily fat joke.
Just wanted to make sure we were all clear. Look, there's something that you didn't bring up that drives me nuts, because there is such a thing as being a person who's like, okay, I'm going to blame this incident on the shooter or the person who did it. But what we'll see a lot of is people who will try to blame it on the ideology that they're opposed to.
Yeah.
And then when it turns out to actually maybe the shooter was associated instead with the other ideology that they disagree with, all of a sudden it's, well, this is really nobody's fault. That's not fair, and it's so transparent, and I think that people absolutely should be called out for that.
No, you're right. Tyrus, what say you? Let's be petty.
All right, short stuff. Let's. I think the problem is that the ideology, the blanket, the camouflage. I think what the right has to do is they start having to attach who these people are to them directly. So you're not saying all left is racist, but when someone like Joy Reid, you say anti-white, black supremacist Joy Reid was on the news today. You know, anti-white men, AOC was on the news today. Pro-shooter such and such was on the news today. I think when you start attaching the deeds to the individual, that's the chance for the group to be like, well, no, I'm not anti-white. What are you talking about? That's who you support. Well, I'm not anti-white. But right now, it's the right doesn't really do anything. They just say, oh, don't say that. But we need to start saying like, oh, this, that, and other. Also, you need to say things like, I will not. Anti-white black supremacist Joy Reid made these comments about such. We will not be airing that because we don't support that kind of talk on our shows. That's what needs to happen. You have to take a stand and look at the person directly, which they won't do because they want to blanket everything. That's why you say Hitler is what liars do. That's what narcissists do. Whenever you call them out on something, there's always a reason for it. You're like, well, why are you supporting this? Well, because the right did this. Not like, well, you know what? I overthought things and my bad. That's what an adult does. So we have to be the adult in the room and start calling out the individuals because as the list gets longer, the credibility goes away. And people will stop wanting to be like that person because there is no public shaming because they're covered behind that left thing. We have to start calling them out. Just like I can't stand it when I was growing up and they're like, all black young men will steal, you know? And it was like, no, say Tyrone did that. Don't put it on me.
Yeah.
You know, like I didn't do it.
So are all black men named Tyrone?
You could be.
You know, the other thing I should mention is that the important thing is when like Gavin Newsom or Pritzker says this stuff, you can't arrest them for it. So you can, which is good. You can't arrest for somebody calls you Hitler, you can't arrest them. So the only thing you can do is get them to stop calling you Hitler. That's the only way we can do it. So that's my point.
But it's up to the person who's in the interview to go, how so?
Yeah.
What is Hitler? Please explain it to me.
Yeah.
You know, in my book, I actually took 2 chapters to explain exactly who Hitler was.
Yeah.
Because we seem to have forgotten.
Yeah.
So the next time someone calls somebody Hitler, break it down for me.
Yeah.
In what ways? Do you need a chart?
I wonder what they called Hitler when he was around. You know who you are? You're Genghis Khan. I don't know.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.